Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Earthborne Games podcast. I'm your host, Anders Carlson. I forgot to say that last time. Reminder, I'm Anders Carlson. And we've got Evan Simonette. Hey, Evan.
Hey, how's it going?
Here's my banter topic for today. Favorite summertime treat?
Yeah, are you asking me?
I'm asking you. I just had a popsicle, and I decided that that's what I'm going to ask you guys.
I was saying that I would prefer those things that we call freezies over here in Minnesota over popsicles because you don't have to worry about them melting, pooling on your hand.
It's like in the plastic. It's the long stick in the plastic tube.
Yep. And then you get all the juice at the end.
Juice at the end's the best. Lime, lime juice I like.
Or cherry.
Anyway,
I was gonna say really. red or blue flavors. Those
flavor.
are.
You know what I preferred was I don't know. I never knew like which brands my mom was buying back then, but when she got the ones that kind of had like an opaque quality to them, you know what I'm saying?
The ones with less flavor then?
Like, you know, there's ones that are just like pure red, like this muscle character that I have. And there's ones where it's like it's got some white in there or something and it kind of is not as transparent.
Yeah.
And I always felt that way about fruit snacks as well. There's like those, they're the opaque looking ones. Anyway,
they would have more flavor.
I don't know if I've ever had a creamy one of those little freeze pops in the little plastic thing. That would almost freak me out. Like there was something, comforting about the sterility of knowing it's just sugar water,
not dairy. That would
I don't know if there was dairy, but that would make sense, right? Anyway, you got
paint.
Just a little bit of plastic that melted into the juice.
Harmless plastic filler.
Here I thought she was buying like the good ones, but it was actually the cheap ones probably. So we got freeze pops. I loved the popsicle I just ate from this brand called Outshine.
It looked good.
It was. Those have some opacity to them. I don't know if that's the right way to say that. But Andrew Fisher, what is your favorite summertime snack?
Well, I'm going to go
cold snack.
On the spectrum of opacity, I'm going fully opaque. With I think my go-to would have to be like mint chocolate chip ice cream cone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love mint chocolate chip ice cream. I was actually just saying to Sam the other day when I was eating some, and I was like, if I was like on death row and I had to have my last meal, I think the last thing I would eat on earth would be mint chocolate chip ice cream.
Wow.
So
any particular brand or place?
No, best? I mean like that's part of the reason, because like you have no idea if you're on death row, you don't know what like they're gonna bring you, right? Like you're probably getting like the store brand like Kemp's Tub, right? But like mint chocolate chip it's always good. Like
that big gallon tub is very good.
Mm-hmm.
The worst mint chocolate chip ice cream is still like way better than the best of many other categories of food in my book.
Do you prefer it?
That's my answer.
Do you prefer it with the green food coloring or without?
No, either way. There's something special though about the like nuclear green.
Yeah, for sure. It adds to it.
And then those 1 gallon buckets have so many uses afterwards,
True.
Yeah, you'll be using that thing for 2 decades.
Yep.
Mint chocolate chip is a divisive flavor. I feel like you either love it or hate it. You think it tastes like toothpaste. We all love it. Yeah. Evan?
Yep.
I could see the toothpaste comparison though, like for some people.
Yeah.
I also really like root beer, and I know people don't like root beer, so I may not be a good source.
I got some root beer last night at the Barbie movie, and the person I was with hates root beer.
Really?
Apropos comment, Evan. Andrew.
Yes.
Last but not least, welcome to the show. And what is your favorite summertime treat?
I think my favorite summertime treat is probably beer with a lime.
Oh yeah,
it's like a lager.
Yeah.
Like a hot day, like today. Like if it wasn't for the fact that our skies are choked with smoke and have been pretty consistently this summer, this would be a perfect day to sit out and drink a nice cold beer.
I changed mine to beer too. I didn't even think about that.
I mean, I was going for like childhood nostalgia. So Andrew, when you're a young boy, Mama,
That's right.
too hot.
No, I mean, like
Cerveza.
everything's good when you're a kid. I don't remember having a favorite summertime treat. Anything that's frozen and sugary. I would probably put like an ice cream sandwich at the top of that list.
Just like
As far as my frozen delights go.
So sticky on the
Gets
hands.
on your fingers though.
Oh,
yeah.
it's so good. It's so good. Now you have the wrapper around it the whole time.
Oh,
And
you're
at
smart.
the end, like the wrapper's like filled with goo, and you just try to
Squirt it
all
out.
in. So good.
And I could talk about snack foods forever. Follow-up question, real quick. Ice cream truck, what would you get when the ice cream man came around?
These days, or when I was a kid,
Either one.
I'd probably get, as a kid, I would get like the drumsticks. You know, the chocolate coated
Yeah,
with
nuts.
frozen cone.
Those are good.
As an adult, probably a popsicle, like a lime popsicle, something like that.
Nice.
Are there still ice cream trucks?
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah. There's one
really?
that goes through my neighborhood like every day this week, actually.
yeah. There's one that goes through our neighborhood too, like up by the because we have a little lake with a little beach, public beach on it. So there's almost always an ice cream truck there. But two summers ago, Sam started to go and like run to the truck pretty regularly. So
Yeah.
then, as a response, the ice cream truck started driving by our house
Nice.
Circling your house.
once
Andrew-
a day.
Did your ice cream truck, does it play the eerie ice cream
Yes.
truck music?
It does. Yeah.
How do you describe that music? I couldn't describe it very
Distinct.
Well, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
It's like
kind of like
chiptune
a
or something.
it's like if you were to play something from like a Jack in the Box,
Yeah.
like the cranking the Jack in the Box sound.
It probably has roots with that, where it was like the little metal prongs that
Yeah.
are like plinking on like a cylindrical
Yep.
thing. Music box. I always got something that was like a cone with like a gumball in the bottom. It was like a screwball or something like that. So you get the little gumball treat at the end.
All right.
Evan Fisher, quick.
So
Make it
anything
quick.
that was chocolate, I guess.
Chocolate.
Yeah, my answer is actually the same as Andrew's. I always went for the drumsticks because like the various popsicles were always just very low tier, right?
Yeah.
They're not good or flavorful. So the drumstick, at least you're still getting like ice cream out of the deal.
That's right.
Ooh, the strawberry shortcake bar. Did you guys ever get
Oh,
one?
that thing is pretty good. Yeah, you're right.
Bomb pop. Bomb pop is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I was always partial to the sour bomb pops myself.
Never had. Hey guys. Hey everyone. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Andrews.
I was just going to invite our listeners to share their favorite cold treat in the comments. And let's move on with the real deal stuff. We got some questions as usual. And so let's just get right into those. And oh no. We got some work stories first. Let's start with Andrew Fisher. You want to tell us about what you've been up to?
Yeah, it's been a busy couple weeks. I guess we recorded late last time, so it's been a busy week and a half. But we've been the expansion campaign writing is underway. Andrew and I have been doing a bunch of testing, got a lot of the missions into a good place, and so Sam and Andrew have been doing a bunch of the writing to kind of get everything actual final text blocked in for all of it. Additionally, I've been working on our first kind of round of frequently asked questions and like errata and reprint changes. Now that the game is starting to get into people's hands, I've been working with our partners to kind of figure out some of those places we want to tweak and fix the game, or just clarifications we want to issue to everybody. And so for anybody who has questions as they're playing through, you can head over to our fan Discord and ask in the rules question channel there. You can email us from our website. We have on the contact us page, there's a little drop down specifically for rules questions. Those will get sent right to me. And then I'm also checking in on our BGG page on occasion. So if you post in the forums there, I can get to that answer too. Though I'd say email is probably the easiest and fastest way to get a hold of me of those options. anyway, we use all of those different clarifications and questions you ask to help inform how we do the frequently asked questions. So don't hesitate to reach out because it's super helpful. So been doing that stuff. Corey has been working to kind of figure out how we're going to take that content as well as our other web content and get it up on our website. We're trying to, with some of our more robust offerings we'd like to have, we're trying to kind of figure out the best way to host and organize them, the best backend to use for kind of organizing all that web content. So there's been a little bit of like iteration, wasted work as we change our plans. But I think we're honing in on a pretty good solution that we're working towards right now. So the FAQ and errata, as well as a bunch of other resources, will be becoming available as the game gets into people's hands here.
I would say pretty much as soon as if we're happy with how it looks, we'll get it up. I think what we're evaluating right now is we're evaluating a different what is it? Would you call it like a back end? What the tool set that we're looking at?
I'm sure all the various software or web development people listening are like, it's this term and
plug in. I don't know what it is,
yeah.
but it's something that we became aware of after Fisher had already done a bunch of work with our online rules stuff. So I think what we're evaluating is how quickly we can shift over to this other way of presenting things. And if that's fast, then we'll just do all that work and get it up. If it's not, then we'll probably do something that's maybe just like a blog post or something in the short term for FAQ and the more critical rules clarifications. But yeah, that'll be coming. Either one of those will be coming very, very soon.
Yeah, definitely. Like Andrew said, we already did a bunch of the work. We were just doing it on kind of like a structure built into our current website. And we're looking at options that use kind of like some wiki-like structures to potentially enable better searching and organization. It's just a question of if it's actually going to do everything we need it to do, if we can kind of make it look like we want it to look and present all the information we want it to present. So Corey's hard at work getting that figured out. And so we'll be kind of rolling out various web materials as we have the ability to do so in the coming month or two as people get games in their hands. But yeah, so that's what I've been up to.
Nice.
And this week we've got we're getting visited by Frosted Games.
That's right. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we'll be spending those days with Ben and Rosa from Frosted Games. So that'll be fun. Playing some stuff. We're gonna play Twilight Imperium on Saturday. So that'll be cool.
Cool.
Yeah, really.
Saturday and Sunday, possibly.
It's gonna be fine. We're gonna get through it.
That's right.
You know, we're gonna take this great partnership we have with Frosted Game and ruin it over board game diplomacy. Yeah.
You could always try Game of Thrones too. You know, that would probably go over just as well.
Right. Or just play diplomacy and then everyone would hate each other.
Oh yeah, that's efficient, making everybody hate each other efficiently. Yeah.
Where are they coming?
But yeah,
from?
that's what I'm up to.
Where are they coming from?
Germany.
Germany, right? Wow, that'll be fun. Cool. Thanks, Fisher. I just wanted to add, I listened to the Shut Up and Sit Down little preview of the game. That was super cool. He seems to be super into it already.
Yeah, for people who aren't aware, I think the Discord was already talking about it, so most of you probably already know. But Shut Up and Sit Down chatted about Rangers on last week's episode of their podcast.
Two episodes ago, I think. Yeah.
2 episodes? Yeah. 1 or 2 episodes ago, based on when this comes out, of their podcast, they kind of chatted about Earthborne Rangers. Matt Lease started and played the first couple days, and it was awesome to hear him talking about it. He seemed excited. It was cool.
Yeah. I was really impressed too by how much he retained from our conversation at UK Games Expo and then from our podcast conversation about the sustainability side of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he got most of it right. He got most of that.
Right. There are parts of it. Yeah, there's parts of it was like, not quite.
But yeah, it was cool. He was that was really cool to hear him talk about it. And the importance of that. It's cool to have the game bring up those conversations.
Yeah. Do we smell a video review for Earthborne?
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. I could sense it. I think he's super interested.
That's cool.
In the game.
Yeah, we've been getting some reviews on Board Game Geek. We got some really nice ones.
That's another thing I would love to talk about on here. Because I looked through those. I looked through those recently, and it's kind of a wild place.
Yeah.
Of people like trying to balance out, like giving it like 0, trying to balance out people giving it a 10 without playing the game, like that kind of stuff. I had no idea.
Yeah, I don't know how they handle that stuff over there, or if they even bother. I think they just assume that eventually it'll all work out.
Yeah.
But yeah, before games are released, it's pretty typical, especially for Kickstarter games, for a bunch of people to go on and just give it 10s before they played it. So then people are like, well, I gotta go in there and give it a bunch of 1s then. So
yeah.
And then you get people posting more 10s saying, posting 10 to balance out the 1s.
Yeah.
And like it's this weird game of like, you've got to keep this game in the 7 to 8 range because that's where like almost all games rest, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, we are on the hotness today, which is pretty exciting.
On Board Game Geek?
Yeah. We are at number 18. I haven't checked it.
That's pretty cool.
But the hype, pretty cool.
The hype has begun.
It has.
I thought of a question while I was listening to that podcast, and I want to ask it during our listener question. So remind me if I forget.
All right, I'll try.
Okay, let's move on with more work stories. Evan, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's just the usual, just doing art. But I am wrapping up all the final art briefs for commissions for these expansions. So it feels pretty monumental that the majority of the art is complete or in progress. And I'm extra excited because hopefully by next week I'll have a little bit more time on my plate to contribute my own art to the game. Because with the core set, I felt like I was able to contribute a lot of my own work to the game. And I just haven't really had the time to do that this time around. So thankfully there's a bunch of pieces for me to work on. So I'm looking forward to that. And it always provides a cool opportunity for like me and Andrew and Joe to kind of synergize with concepts and stuff. And like Joe just this morning during our visual design meeting posted these really cool sketches that I'll be working from. And I love that so much about my job here is interpreting his work and making it a finished product, and interpreting Andrew's work and being able to see like everyone's kind of unique perspective in these pieces that we work on together. So looking forward to that. I made some progress on the map, a little bit of progress, but I'm also excited to have my plate clear to work on that more. So
yeah, and revising the cover also.
And the cover, revising the cover. Yep. Yeah.
Did you get last week? We talked without you about the underground map. Did you guys come to a solution on that?
Yeah. So I didn't listen to that whole episode. I don't recall what you guys talked about specifically, but I did have a variation of the map before that episode, I think.
Yeah, the top-down one.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try a different take on it that I think is gonna be more enjoyable. I just didn't immediately try it at first because I didn't think it was going to translate well, but after talking with Andrew about it, I'm going to try a different take and see how that goes. So
cool.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Thanks, Evan. And then Andrew.
Hi.
Hi, your turn.
So as has become my custom, I will give a fulfillment update. I don't think I've changed my bullet point in the show notes for the past like 3 or 4 episodes.
I'm sure a lot of people are tuning in for this very moment.
We talked like a year ago, Andrew, where you were like, I want to be doing the creative work. I don't want to just become the business guy. But fulfillment update has been your
Well, I did do some sketches this weekend, and that was really fun.
Those are sick. Yeah, those were really cool.
Yeah, I was pretty inspired. So whenever those moments come, you gotta do it. And then we met about them a little bit this morning, so I'm gonna take another stab at another one of them after Joe gave me some really good feedback. But yeah, fulfillment is so slow. I was thinking about like how I would talk about this today, this morning, and I go back in my mind to the many times at FFG I would walk past the production offices or like where the fulfillment people are, and just the looks on their faces where they look so bedraggled and like beaten down and just miserable. Yeah, because trying to coordinate production and fulfillment of things is tiring and thankless work. And yeah, man, it sucks. I gotta say, I'm been pretty frustrated by this experience. The past couple of weeks, so we sent out an update. Oh man, 2 weeks ago now. We were like, hey, fulfillment's going to begin next week, which was last week. And then throughout that entire week, I kept waiting to hear word that the shipment had left the factory because we had gotten that all sewn up. It'll be two weeks prior by the time this is released, and everything was ready to go. We had all the quantities, everything was sewn up. That took a long time just to like reconcile where all the copies of everything went. We got it all straightened out. There was not a single copy of anything unaccounted for. That was a level of detail that was probably not required, but we got there. And that took a long time. I think a few days longer than I would have liked. But then this past week when I expected fulfillment to begin, like each day, it's like, nope, it hadn't gone out yet. It hasn't gone out. And I kept thinking like, oh yeah, this will be the day it goes out. And then we'll send an update saying, hey, it's out. And then everyone will be excited. But then we got to Friday and it still hadn't gone out. So we had to post another update saying, sorry, this is taking longer to process and pack at the factory than we were hoping. But I did get word that it did actually leave Ludifact today. So if everything works out, fulfillment could begin as soon as tomorrow because it doesn't have to go very far. It's like it stays in the country. So nice. So hopefully by the time this podcast posts, we will also have an update either this weekend or prior, like whenever it happens. As soon as those first packages go out, we will say hooray, it has actually begun. But it looks like it's finally happening, so that's exciting. Amazing. Yes, but it's a lot of me staring at my in my inbox hoping for information and then sending little chat messages asking, hey, update, what's up? And then mostly getting bad news. But I got decent news today. So this week, hopefully, people in Germany in particular will start to get their games.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah. But I think the thing that has helped me get through it is the fact that the people who are playing the game, who do have it, seem to be really liking it. So that's awesome. That feels really good.
Is that people in Italy?
Well, there's some people in Germany because Frosted Games sent out theirs already. Okay.
So Italians and Germans.
And Italians and Germans, yep. It's
awesome.
Yeah. And like I said, we've started getting some reviews coming in, and those have been really positive. So that's been really great just to hear that people are enjoying the game. And, especially like Fisher, you were talking about FAQ and errata. Like you and I have been focused so much on like clarifying things and like tweaking stuff to make it more clear. So if people run into problems, they can come to the website and find a solution. And when you're in that space, like It's like all you can think about are all the things that you messed up, and you forget that 95+% of the game is pretty awesome. So that's not an official percentage. Don't quote me on that. But it's primarily a really good thing. So it's good to be reminded by the people who are playing it, enjoying it. That's like that's the predominant takeaway is like, this is cool, as opposed to, oh, there's all these problems. So which is what we're living in when we're trying to make it as perfect as possible.
Right.
I mean, honestly, I think you pretty well summed up actually one of the biggest challenges I've seen with professional game design right there, which is like, honestly, if I had to, there's all sorts of different like challenges, learning skills and stuff, but if I had to say probably the biggest thing that hits people who come in to do this profession, it is how much time you spend focusing on those kind of negative elements.
Yeah.
And the impact it can have on your psychology, right? Like, you get those brief moments where you're doing the brainstorming early work and you're just like, it's just dreams and excitement, right? But like, for every hour you spend doing that, you're going to spend hours and hours and hours and hours testing it, seeing it not work, and getting people criticizing it in different ways and trying to change it, and then QAing it and looking at every fiddly little detail and then adjudicating these things afterwards. And so like, a lot of that process is just hearing negativity about your work the entire time and like kind of getting past that and finding ways to kind of see the positive impact it has, and like making sure that informs your personal psychology as you do this job is definitely one of the more invisible parts of this career from the outside, but is definitely one of the biggest challenges to people coming into it. So I feel that. I feel that deeply.
Yeah, but that's what I've got. So yeah, so hopefully that'll be all done. We'll have Fisher alluded to this a little bit, but we'll have some news coming about all of our post-release support and all the things we'll be doing for the game to continue to support it. Not just FAQs and answering rules questions, but other cool and exciting things that will add even more value to your copy of the game.
Oh, heck yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for your updates, as usual. Let's jump into listener questions. First one's from me, as I mentioned.
Yeah, this is a separate segment, host questions.
Host question. I'll try to frame it as if it's a listener question. Sorry, forgive me if this has already been addressed, but I've often wondered just how far in the future is Earthborne set. You may not want to share this information, or maybe it's already out there. Is it 1,000 years into the future? Oh, it is? Okay. What is the answer?
The year is 4,441.
Where is that? Where is that in the book?
I don't think it's explicitly said. We have some quotes that some attributions of text that say the year.
Just do it. Control F.
You have to kind of infer
Fisher. Control F. 4441.
If only that worked in real life.
Yeah.
Do you
ever look at a photograph and like want to do this?
I've seen people do that. I haven't done it yet, but I have been drawing like actual, like traditional media drawing, and then thought Command Z when I screw something up.
Totally.
I hate doing that.
There are a couple dates on this opening page, Andrew, but like they don't explicitly say exactly what year it is. Yeah.
What are the dates about?
In the world book, it does say the year.
Okay.
Because it has a timeline that brings you up to the present.
Is that something you like knew right off the bat? You're like, let's make it this year.
Kind of, yeah.
Are those numbers significant?
I just thought it sounded cool.
4441, was that right?
Uh-huh.
I like that. I like that. It's way off. It's like double today's year.
Yeah, pretty far. Like I wanted it to be far enough where it was.
No, it's not quite.
Kind of like how where I wanted people in the future to have like a similar idea of what we're dealing with in our daily lives and like like our current events. Like I didn't want the people of the future to have much more awareness about like what's going on today than we have of like what was going on 2,500 years ago in someone's
in like
daily
Rome
life
or something.
Yeah, we have very broad strokes about what was happening, and I wanted that kind of same feeling.
Oh, so they don't quite know the details of our.
Oh, I mean, they know
history.
as much as we know about ancient Rome.
Yeah, right.
Maybe
you
less
know some
though.
Stuff. Yeah,
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, it depends. Like I think it depends on what you're doing. Like Fisher, you're about to say, like there are some people in the world who care a lot about the history. They know a lot, but then most people are just going about their daily lives.
Right.
They're not giving much thought to what was happening.
See, I think
Solaro Mako would be able to tell you some stuff, but Ale isn't going to give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
We have movies and TV shows that help keep us informed about Rome, like 300 and Rome. So I know probably more about Rome than they know about us.
Are those telling you accurate things, though, Evan?
Yeah, I think they are.
Historical drama 300.
Very interesting. I have a lot of follow-up questions to that, but that'll take all day. Quacks is in the house. Quacks wants to know, what idea did you think was great but ended up completely upending the Earthborne Rangers rule system? Okay, got it. That's the question.
I have an idea, but I'll be interested to hear
yours. No, you go ahead, Andrew.
Mine was we had a version of the game where it was the one that I showed you when I was like, take a look at this. It's something's wrong with our resource system. We need to fix our resource system. I tried to do so many different things with the resource system. It's just bugging me. And what I think ultimately determined what was the biggest culprit to the problem of so the problem we'd have is like the game just lasted forever. It took forever to play. Like in a round would never end.
Not just a day, like one round of the game.
Round.
Oh,
yeah.
I see.
And you could play it for like 4 hours like this. It was back when it was a little bit more scenario based. It was just too long. Which the solution seems so obvious now, but at the time it wasn't necessarily clear to me because we really liked these effects where you'd have I think what eventually became the personality cards. What they would do is when you completed a test of one kind, like say you did an awareness test, then you could play these moment cards that would say, when you complete an awareness test, gain 1 spirit or whatever. So you'd get another energy. So you had all these ways of gaining energy throughout the round where it just, that kind of became the game, was trying to make your round last as long as humanly possible. Mm-hmm. But it was really boring.
Yeah, and one of the things we did there was we came in and looked at like what's pushing us towards the end of the game, right? Like round to round, that's energy. Day to day, that's cards out of your deck, right? Primarily fatigue, but other things can pull cards out of your deck. And then in how we cost what effects you can get in the game, those are very like, we include them on occasion, but they're all flagged so that we try to cost them aggressively enough that they never could possibly reach an efficiency threshold where you're just like, you're not pushing the timer anymore. Playing with them, there's some schools of design where like, oh, then you just don't touch those, right? You always push towards the end. We played with them a little, and I do think there's probably some infinite day decks that will emerge, especially in the solo scene, that like break our timers, especially on the deck and fatigue side in that regard. But the game system really pushes things towards the end game now, which helps. I was going to answer the question. I was thinking about it from like mechanics that would have upended the system and so that we didn't implement. And I mean, there's a ton of those. There's so many cool ideas we had that, like, in a different version of Earthborne Rangers are like the definitive idea in that game.
Right.
But like, you have to make hard decisions about what fits into your system. One that we talked about and keep talking about that hopefully it isn't. I'll talk about it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Is the idea of like that idea of sustainability of an environment, except baked into the game mechanics. Sam and I have been playing Paleo, which does this to a little degree in like how it manages the cards in that game. But we once talked about this idea of like, what if any card you cleared due to harm was just removed from the game forever, right? Like,
right.
So like anytime you kill a creature, that creature is gone forever. And like, I think there's a version of Earthborne Rangers in some Splinter universe where that is the core conceit, and the whole card pool is designed around this concept of managing the valley and the environment in kind of like this, in this way. And, maybe we'll do something with that idea at one point, but it like just clashed and conflicted to your completely upending part of your question, how we were handling our branching narrative, and just like, we needed to get a ton of reusability out of a fairly, I mean, it's a big card count, but like a relatively small card count for everything it's doing. Mm-hmm. We just didn't have room to also do this like whole sustainability system. So that was an idea that I think both Andrew and I really liked, that like just didn't quite fit at the time and place we tried to introduce it.
Yeah. I had thought of like having a discard pile and a dead pile, kind of like Game of Thrones card game, where like if something cleared from harm, you'd have the opportunity to like finish it off, or to put it in the discard pile and just kind of chase it off. But then you'd get resources or something from it, or but yeah, it's like Fisher's saying, that's a different game.
Nice. All right, cool question, Mr. Quacks. The next question is from Darren. In which mall store would a prodigy of the floating tower look for a new conduit? Answer. Oh, wait a minute. What am I looking at here?
It's a joke. He's telling
you a joke.
Someone else tell it, because I don't understand this joke.
In what mall store would a prodigy of the floating tower look for a new conduit?
I don't know. In what mall store would a prodigy of the floating tower look for a new conduit?
The Shaper Image.
Well done.
I get it now. I'm not stupid. That's awesome. Thanks, Darren. And then Darren asks...
And then there's a follow-up to that.
Yeah. You are all dads, or soon to be. That's right. What's the best dad joke you can come up with in or around the Earthborne universe? Evan, you got any?
I wrote down several.
Okay. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Do it.
I read this right before lunchtime, and I had spent my time thinking about it. So I'll just go right down the list if no one else has any.
Yeah, go for it.
I've got some. Let's trade off, Evan.
Okay, all right.
Mine vary in quality or just how stolen they are from other dad jokes with Earthborne slapped on.
You want to go first?
No, you start.
Okay, I wrote them down here, so I didn't. Okay, what did the conciliator find in the con artist bag outside of Spire?
What?
Carbon forged documents.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I don't get...
What's the traveling musician's favorite animal in the valley?
What?
A lutrinol.
Oh, no! Nice.
Oh,
nice.
Okay.
Oh my God, these are great. These are great.
What is the Drowning Ranger's favorite path card to encounter?
What?
Anything within reach.
That's a good one.
These are good. These are good
jokes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
fantastic. Bro.
Mine aren't quite as bespoke Earthborne from there on. But what did the new Ranger recruit do after being kicked out for having no sense of direction?
What?
He packed up his things and write.
And he packed up his things and what?
And write.
And write?
And right?
Oh, I
Because
see.
he got kicked out for having no sense of direction.
I got it.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. It took
wow,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a thinker. That's a
Yeah,
thinker. I like that though. I like it.
All right, here's a really really stupid one to follow up the highbrow one that Andrew shared.
Highbrow.
Yeah.
Who is Picoto the Ferret's favorite actor?
Mark Singer.
Vin Weasel.
Oh.
That's my favorite one so far.
Why can't you play hide and seek with Aatrox Mountain?
Why?
It always peaks.
I see. You're just throwing in like the name of the. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are just dad jokes with like they're not as Evans are better, I think.
Yours are great. I like them. I like them
Yeah.
all. Evan, do you have any more?
I have two more.
Let's go.
Okay. What is Elder Murtaugh's favorite supplement?
What?
Centrum Silverfin.
Because it's Centrum Silver.
That was a bad one.
I got it.
Yeah.
And then the last one is I don't know if this is super good. Why do Rangers dislike the army?
Why?
The military fatigues.
Uh,
Or maybe I don't know. Maybe
The
you
fatigues.
like fatiguing in the game.
Right.
I always
Yeah.
hated it, but sometimes it can be good. So
This is great. This is a news
are-
segment. I'm going to think of some.
That's fantastic.
I want in on the party. I'm going to top you, Evan.
all right.
I vote for Vin Weasel.
I liked anything within reach. That was pretty good.
Yeah,
good
that was pretty
delivery.
good.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you for inspiring that segment, Darren. Let's see. Our next question comes from EISB. I'm curious what would be different about the game if you had only just met the Kickstarter goal instead of more than quadrupling it. With hindsight, would it have been enough money to achieve the vision for the game, or would key aspects of the gameplay, story scope, and sustainable vision need to be sacrificed to ship it on budget? In short, what would Earthborne on a 100K budget look like?
That's a really good question.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
it would be a lot smaller. In fact, I think Earthborne, if I went back, might be a little smaller than it currently is. We scope pretty big, and the amount of time it takes to kind of develop, write, make all the art for all of that content is pretty huge. And like, frankly, we just wouldn't have had the money to see all that development through. So I think that it would have been a more streamlined game, I think. We still would have, there's a lot about the game that was defined at the time we did the Kickstarter. So it wouldn't be a wholly different game, but I think it probably would have been streamlined and potentially with kind of other future content to come instead of how exactly the scope we put into it. But I don't know how you feel, Andrew.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been streamlined, honestly, because I think making the game what it turned out to be is what the vision ended up being. I don't know if there's a way to streamline it that would have satisfied me. But the $100,000 goal was based on the open world version of the game. But I did that calculation based on the cost of art, the cost of writing, and ongoing development, and keeping Evan employed. So all of those things, I think what would have happened is that I would have had to keep my job at Chip Theory, or find some other work. And I wouldn't have been able to spend as much time on the game. And I think it just probably would have just not gotten as much focused attention over a short period of time. We'd probably still be working on it today, honestly. If we only made $100,000 on it, it'd probably still just be trundling along, trying to get done. but yeah, I've given this whole thing a fair amount of thought, given how long it's taken. It's been 2 years now, almost to the day since we launched the Kickstarter campaign, and I think even with quadrupling it, like if we hadn't also gotten a bunch of foreign partners involved, and they purchased the game from us, that $400,000 really doesn't go very far. At least it doesn't really allow you to do it full time. Like you still need to have some other source of income, I think, in order to really dedicate the resources that the project needs. So like in hindsight, I would say like the real goal is probably should have been like $500,000, but we wouldn't have gotten that on Kickstarter. But it's more accurate, I think, to like what the game is actually, the level of investment we've actually put into the game.
To your point about how far that money goes, I feel like that's something I often see on people's interpretations of Kickstarter campaigns, is they look at like, oh, this game made $1 million. They're millionaires now, right? Like maybe they don't say that explicitly, but that's kind of the attitude. Like it made $1 million. They're rich. Like, where's our game, right? I see that kind of sentiment thrown around, but like $1 million doesn't actually go as far as it sounds like it goes, right? After Kickstarter
depends on the game.
Its cut.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, especially physical games, you have to print them, you have to ship them, you have to fulfill them. Kickstarter takes its cut. Payment methods take their cut. You have to employ everybody. You have to buy all the assets to create the thing. At the end of the day, like that money evaporates way faster than like when it's easy to think, oh yeah, I understand they have to make the thing. What's that, like a couple $100,000? But like that money just goes away a lot fast. So like when you look at those big Kickstarter like hauls, they aren't actually, that's just revenue. That's not profit. And so like that money is going places.
Yeah, totally. I do think that it does depend on the scope of the project, because you could look at like Exploding Kittens, for example. That's pretty easy. That's pretty easy to make.
That's true. They don't have how many hundreds of pieces of art?
Well, they do have lots of pieces of art, but they're all really easy to do. But yeah, I think that just the scope of the game, and I think it's really become evident to me, now that we're started working on the fiction for the campaign guide for the expansion, just how much that work that we did in the year and a half prior on all the world building, all the sketches, like all the stuff that we had there made everything a lot easier. And I feel like some stuff about working on the expansion has been a little bit more challenging because we are kind of going into some areas we haven't necessarily explored. So we're kind of creating new stuff in a way that we weren't necessarily doing in the core set. But anyway, yeah, $100,000. It would have been tough, but that was literally what was needed, which is where I came up with that number. But yeah, who knows? Cool. I'm glad we don't have to know.
Right. Cool. Good question. I'm going to ask the next question, then run to the bathroom, you guys. From Maka. So the U.S. backers should plan on traveling to Minnesota in September for a release party? Proceed.
You could. We're planning on doing a local pickup event, probably in September, for the maybe 10 people who signed up for a local pickup, most of whom I know personally.
And anybody else who wants to stop by.
Yeah, anyone else can stop by. Absolutely, 100%. I've been talking to a buddy of mine who is the manager at a local game store about doing the event at his place. So I think if that still happens, that's going to be where we do it. But before we pick a date, I want the games to clear customs. and then we can actually like plan a date. But sometime in September makes sense. But stay tuned, and we'll let people know with as much advance notice as we can when and where it'll actually happen.
It's mostly probably going to be us sitting at a game store talking to people.
Yes.
So I don't heavily encourage you to travel a long distance to come talk to us unless you really want to, in which case, come on by.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to see you. All we're going to be doing is hanging out, giving people their games, probably selling a couple copies. We'll probably have some on hand. But yeah, stay tuned.
Cool. What did you guys say?
You just want us to repeat the whole bit?
We said maybe.
Okay.
Anders is going to be there.
I'll be there. I'll be there. I don't have to travel far, though. All right. Ben Jespers would love to hear a little more, spoiler-free, of course, of what goes into the playtesting process. After a session in which... do you want to answer it?
Yeah, just read it all.
Okay. After a session in which testers were beaten, would they replay the same session again without changes to see if outcome is different? I've wondered that myself. I understand the small changes Fisher talked about, changing a test difficulty / thresholds, but what would have to happen to make a dramatic change or even consider a whole rework?
So the testing process it can be messy, especially on a big sprawling game like this. A lot of things can trigger a rework. I would say that generally over the testing process, you kind of look to kind of tackle these questions in a random order here. As far as like what kind of changes you're looking at anytime you test the game, you start out looking for really broad scope things like does this idea work? Is this fun? Is this kind of what we're looking for? Does this evoke like the story we're trying to tell? And then as you get farther along, you start thinking like, does this little mechanic, how would we word this? Maybe we switch out these two effects, pull this lever, turn this dial, etc. And then finally, near the end of playtesting, any big fundamental changes you might have made early could have huge ripples, and so then you have to be a lot more conservative, and you're looking at like just tweaking numbers, like maybe we make this a little easier, up and down, and like so it goes from broad changes to specific changes throughout. That being said, broad changes get made near the end very often if something necessitates, but ideally at that stage you should, if you feel like a broad change is needed, you should kind of question it a bit to make sure you're not just changing a bunch of stuff at a point when it's not going to get a ton of testing. So across the span of testing, we've kind of got this funnel of specificity, and then as far as the actual playtest process, it varies. We use a combination of internal testing where we just sit down, like Andrew and I have been testing over the last few weeks. I have a printed copy of the game. We just sit down, play a mission, talk about it, often make tweaks right there, play it again, see if it plays any differently with the tweaks we made. But we also send stuff out to external testers who are going to do a lot less. If they get beaten by a scenario, they'll likely just write up a report. We have a big list of questions that they kind of fill out, giving us the specifics, some data on their session so we can get a picture of it, as well as all of their players' reactions. And so they usually won't try again unless we specifically prompt them to. Whereas internally, we're doing a little bit more of that rapid iteration. And so we kind of try to use these different types of testings for different things. That broad reaction is useful for kind of seeing how people who aren't us, who don't have prior knowledge of the system, might react to something, whereas our tests are very good for that kind of early iteration on like broad ideas. But ultimately, with a game this sprawling, our testing is maybe a little less systematic than you might think. We just kind of, I understand from the structure of our campaign where over here, we're kind of treading on familiar ground. This is less risky. Here's a big mission we know everybody's going to play, and it's got risky mechanics. Let's prioritize that. And we kind of spot, test, and design things until we've got kind of coverage on everything.
Cool.
I have a question that I just thought of while you're talking about that. Has there ever been with Earthborne or with any game you've worked on in the past, a mechanic that you're really attached to that just wasn't working in playtesting and you were forced to change it and you're like, no, I don't want to?
Oh, so many times.
Yeah, that would be really hard for me. I would struggle with that.
The kill your darlings is like,
Yeah.
I don't actually know what the original source of that saying is, but
Dorothy Parker?
I'm not sure.
Who said that? I'm gonna look it up. Continue.
It's a fairly like famous saying, but like that's commonly thrown around with game designers because you get really attached, and like you can get attached to things from a design perspective. It's not actually fun for the players, but it's like neat, right? You think as a designer that it's neat, and like getting where's it from?
Faulkner, of course.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So anyway, figuring out killing your darlings is still something that, you know, I've been doing this for many years, and you know, even now I still fight myself on it and have to check myself and, you know, work against that perception. So it's something that I think a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, you have to stop yourself when you say it's the playtesters who are wrong.
Right.
Well, it's hard because playtesting feedback's so subjective, and often testers will give you feedback that's like asking for specific changes. And a lot of playtesting is looking at that feedback, trying to work backwards to figure out what's actually the root cause of what they're asking for, and then figuring out if what they're asking for is actually the right fix, because often it isn't. You know, they might be saying that like, oh, you know, to use a very kind of like basic like combat example of something, right? It's like, oh, this boss has, you know, way too much HP, right? And you're like, well, you know, our like according to your stats, you were playing the exact number of rounds we wanted you to play. Oh, you know, like, and then we realize, oh, they're just dying long before they can kill this boss. Oh, you know, maybe it's actually the boss's damage, right? But like what they were kind of, and then, you know, you can tweak that and have a much better experience. So there's a lot of like interpretation of this very subjective feedback that goes into this process.
Interesting.
Sorry, Andrew, I interrupted you. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, I think that's where this, like, having a strong vision really helps, because if you believe in the vision and stay true to the vision, then it almost doesn't really matter what gets you there as long as you get there. So you can feel more free to call ideas and concepts and stuff as long as it's all in service of getting to the vision, and the vision isn't compromised. Then it's not so big of a deal. But yeah, there's definitely stuff that, like, you know, you might write or create that there's just no home for. You're like, well, this will just go over here for now.
The vision's a good comment too, because when you're in these kind of, you know, you're reading some playtest feedback about a really zoomed in specific little topic, you lose all scope of everything else, right? And there's rarely a single right answer as to how, you know, despite what internet forums may espouse, there's usually not a single right answer. There's usually lots of different valid directions. And so you're sitting there like, which of these valid directions, A, B, or C, is the right way to go for this game? And if you have a vision, you know, when you're all zoomed in and you've lost perspective, you can look back at that vision and say, all right, of A, B, and C, what do I think is going to most achieve or stay true to our vision? And it kind of can guide you when you don't have that perspective.
Nice. Well, our next question kind of flows into this. It's from Jan. Do you feel impacted by the lack of feedback from players while creating the expansion?
What does this question mean? I wasn't quite sure. Do we have lack of feedback?
Like feedback on the first game or on the core game?
Oh, yeah. I see. Lack of feedback on the core game.
I cut some context from this one because it was a little more than I wanted to read out. But yes, they're asking, like, is the lack of hearing player feedback on the core game, it being out in the wild, impacting, like, making it more difficult to work on expansions?
I would say no. I mean, this was often something we'd encounter with the competitive LCGs at Fantasy Flight Games, where we'd have issues responding to how players were playing the game and what the meta was, because we were so far ahead, we couldn't really react very well, and that was always challenging. So we'd have to try to use our existing playtesters to get a sense of where things might go, and then with the expansions, adjust the card pool to address what they would think would happen. And in those cases, I think that was very that was a big challenge that we had, and I thought those guys did a great job doing the best they could. We couldn't necessarily react to everything, but I think things went pretty well. With a cooperative game, I don't really know if it really matters as much, honestly. Like, there could be some stuff where people are like, oh, I want to do more of X or Y or whatever, or like, oh, I like this mission, but I'd be afraid to listen to that too much. And then, then you're just giving people what they're asking for, and then you kind of lose a little bit of you lose a little bit on the creative side and on the audience side when you get something you're not exactly expecting. I don't think you ever want them, unless there's like an error, I don't think you ever want a creator to just do exactly what you tell them to do.
I think it does impact us, but to Andrew's point, it's something we're very used to. This was true of like all printed products when we were at FFG, even board games. Most of the first expansions of board games were finished before the core set was ever in people's hands.
Yes.
Finished in development. And so it does impact us. To Andrew's point, it's not a competitive game, so we're not dealing with this competitive meta, but a meta does kind of develop, and like how the majority of players are using your cards informs what cards you do in the future and what mechanics you play with or how you tweak them. One benefit we have there is one of the people designing our cards, Davi, was also one of our most prolific and experienced testers. And so he's just played a ton of the game. And so, a lot of what we're seeing emerge from players getting their hands on the cards are the exact same things that Davi and some of his other testers saw during play. And so, like, I think we haven't been like super shocked by any of the combos or anything that have come out already, and that's thanks to having Davi help kind of drive some of the design. So we do things to combat that. Just like Magic has the same problem because of print times. They have the Future League, which is basically they try to create a little mini meta of unreleased sets inside Wizards so that they can kind of have like a test environment that's actually more up to date than the environment in the wide world. It's not always successful, right? Sometimes it misses, but we've just got to find ways to kind of counteract that, because it's just a truth of physical production and distribution.
Yeah, I think the one benefit that Rangers has over other card games, cooperative card games, is that while it's not competitive, you could say that games like Marvel Champions have a competitive aspect to them, right? Because you're trying to defeat the villain as efficiently as possible, and you want to build your deck around defeating that villain. Just as an example, and in Rangers, you really don't have that. So it's really, when you're building a deck, it's more about building the deck that you want to play. And if you find a combo in there that's like, you say to yourself, wow, this just makes things too easy. If you enjoy playing that way, then go play that way. That's totally fine. Like, if you're enjoying getting your combo out, like, haha, I got my combo out, take that game, and you're just doing it. Yeah. And you have fun with that, then that's cool. But if it's something you play and you're like, that kind of detracts for me, then you just don't run it. Just play something else. And I think we do a lot in the setup of the game and onboarding you into the experience to bring you up to speed on that concept of, when you build your deck, it's not about trying to create the thing that's the most efficient or most perfect. It's about how you want to interact with the game. And if what you want is most efficient and perfect, then you want to create some kind of like crazy combo that quote unquote breaks things, and that's fun for you, then that's awesome. Have fun with that. But if you find that and people say, oh no, you got to play that deck, this is the infinite day deck, you got to play that, and you play it because it's been explained to me how it might work. It just doesn't sound very fun.
No, you're dedicating most of your cards to keeping the infinite day going. You're not doing all the fun tricks.
Exactly. So it's like, it exists, but it's not optimal from a fun experience. So there's really no reason to do it, because you're not really, you're not testing yourself against a scenario that's trying to pummel you into the ground. So
I think that's a really good point. It kind of gets back to that, like, if you're there's a spectrum from a competitive card game to a tabletop role-playing game, and just, we're further towards that tabletop role-playing game than a lot of the other kind of games in this space, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And so, like, it's a lot more about the story you tell than like exactly optimizing your deck for the meta or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, that closes out our listener questions. Thanks, everybody. Great questions this week. We've talked about some great stuff so far, and it's just going to get better now that we're rolling into Anders Indie Game Corner.
Yeah. New segment.
Yeah.
New segment.
Need a little theme song for it.
Yeah, maybe I'll throw one in. I like this as my segment here, the stuff we're into portion.
There's pressure to play a new little indie game every 2 weeks now, though, Anders.
I like that, though. That's fun. Because I found a good one this last 2 weeks that I put probably 15 hours into, which is a lot for me.
Dang.
It's a game that I've had in the backlog for a long time, and I found it when I was researching what should be the next Metroidvania that I play, and because that's one of my favorite genres, the 2D platforming exploration game. It's kind of a retro-styled game called Astalon: Tears of the Earth, and it was developed, I think, by like a team in the Ukraine. It's a little indie game, but it was so fun. It scratched that like Metroidvania itch that I search for, in the vein of like Hollow Knight or Blasphemous or Super Metroid. Really mostly exploration focused rather than combat. So you're these three little 8-bit looking characters. You're like a little party. Actually, Evan, I thought of you. I was going to tell you would love this game.
I'm looking at pictures right now. It looks right up my alley.
Yeah, because it looks like a dorky little 8-bit.
It's definitely got like that Mega Man, or Shovel Knight vibes.
Yeah. Little like Mega Man looking sprites. I don't know. It's just you go into this tower and you're trying to find the bad guy or whatever. The story is pretty decent, but my favorite thing about those games is exploring and finding secret pathways and discovering a new party member that will allow you to get to that little ledge that you saw earlier on, and then it's fun to know you can go back and get to that unreachable place. The little twist that this game has on the genre is that every time you die, you meet with this like Grim Reaper type dude that will sell you upgrades, and I feel like it was leveled like really perfectly. Like you could grind if you wanted to. You could like go off screen, then go back, and the enemies would respawn. Just like keep killing them. I did that a few times, but then like after 30 minutes, I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Just like running off screen, running back, kill the guy, run off, run back. You can kind of like, think about other stuff as you're doing that mindlessly. But it was really fun. I highly recommend it. If you liked Hollow Knight and you're looking for another game like that, like this is the one. It's really cool. It was really fun. And sometimes with those games you get towards the end and it's just like, okay, there's a lot of retracing your steps, because every time you die you have to go to the start of this like tower or whatever. So you have to like start from the same spot every time you die. But then you unlock little pathways, and it's really satisfying then to find those secret pathways, because you're like, oh cool, I don't have to retrace my steps again anymore.
Because there's it looks like 3 heroes you can play as. It makes me wonder if it's inspired by Castlevania 3, which
Mm.
was a Nintendo game in which you play as a Belmont, and then you get allies that you can trade off. You can you can swap in and out different characters in your place.
Cool.
Like Alucard, you play as him.
Maybe it was.
Showed up later in Symphony of the Night. Looks cool.
I want to go back and play those. And each character, it felt like they all served a purpose. Like I didn't end up just, using one. I switched off. And there ends up being 5 characters, I think. Anyway, that's my indie game of the week. I really got absorbed in it. And I also saw the Barbie movie, and it was fine.
It was fine.
It was okay. It was fun. It was funny, and it was also like they had a lot of messages that they wanted to deliver, and it felt like just a nonstop monologue trying to explain to you the meaning of the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds great.
Did you get a picture of yourself inside of the full size Barbie box?
No, I didn't see it.
Oh,
I wouldn't have.
I've just seen a lot. I've just seen a lot of them on online.
Oh, really?
People like they've got like the full size Barbie box at the movie theater, and you go inside and.
Oh yeah, I didn't see it. I would not recommend seeing the movie in the theater if you're at all interested. I like the director. That's why I saw it. I've liked her other movies. But this was like Everything Everywhere All at Once. I felt suffered from the same problem where like the second half of the movie was just, here's another message we'd like to deliver through like a boring monologue. And then it's not over yet. Here's 10 more of those scenes.
That's kind of where I stopped watching the movie. I really loved that movie, but I got burnt out. It was super long. I have to finish that still.
Nah, it's fine. You don't have to. Okay, that's my stuff. Fisher, what's your stuff? Oh, Dave.
Yeah, so I think last time I mentioned that Sam and I tried agate hunting to not much success. So since last podcast, we went out with our jeweler who knows some places in the Twin Cities you can go, and we went and dug up some agates. Basically, we were on like the shore of the Mississippi River. A little less gross here than it is south of south into the country. So we were kind of in the shallows, and you dig and you go through the rocks there, and success. We found a couple really beautiful agates. Unfortunately, I was like looking for them to bring them and show them. They look a little less cool because right now they've the jewelers cut them into slices, and so they're not like polished or anything yet. And so when they're not polished, you can't quite see all the colors and stuff. But I think Sam took them because I could not locate them. But we got 2 that like about like golf ball sized, and one with these we were looking for very kind of tight banding on them. And we got 2 with pretty tight banding. One's very red and the other's very yellow. And so we've been kind of like looking at the different slices we got out of them and trying to figure out where we want to have our stones kind of worked from for the rings and stuff. So cool. It's been pretty cool. Yeah, it's been fun. It was a lot of fun.
Are you sure your jeweler didn't say, "No, dig right here, this spot"? I'm pretty sure.
Where I planted them. No, I don't think so. It's pretty wild. You find just a ton of cool stuff. Like there's a lot of quartz, and there's a lot of stuff that's like technically agates. Like you just pick up a handful of rocks out of the Mississippi, and there'll be agates in your hand. But most of them don't look cool, right? Like a lot of them, it's like technically an agate where there's like the kind of red stuff suspended in quartz, but it doesn't have that like really tightly ringed banding that you associate like when you think of an agate. And so it's finding like the pretty ones. That it's not that hard to find an agate. It's hard to find a good looking agate.
Mm-hmm. Where did you go specifically? That sounds kind of fun.
Well, I was told not to share the spot our jeweler showed us. But we just went to a park along the Mississippi, and then like where you can go down in like into a rocky area of the shore. I can, but I can't say the park itself.
Town? Huh? What town?
We were in Minneapolis.
Okay, that's good enough. I'll get them.
But
I'm gonna take my jeweler down, and we're gonna look. All right.
But yes,
what
that was
else?
a lot of fun. I actually played a couple games. I know the last couple podcasts I've said I haven't been playing video games, and I've mostly been playing games very late at night. I just kind of basically like wasn't going to bed. I was staying up a little later and playing a game during that time just to like, I don't know, unwind a bit. And mine are not cool, obscure indie picks like Anders, but
Kind of.
I was
Yes,
playing
they
Vampire.
are.
Well, I guess Vampire Survivor. Everybody was talking about Vampire Survivor.
True.
So I checked that out because a lot of people had talked about it. It was cheap and seemed like kind of a fun diversionary game. It's kind of a like twin stick shooter. Well, it's like a mono stick shooter because it's like a twin stick shooter, except your right stick does nothing because your character auto fires all their weapons, and so it's kind of got that rogue-like cycle of building a combo, but all with these auto fire weapons with infinite spawning enemies, and it's pretty fun. There's some cool builds you can make with it, and they've got enough. Oh, go ahead, Anders.
If you like that somewhat, I would highly recommend. I don't know how you'd say the name. SNKRX, Snake RX.
SNKRX.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like to me, it's like a next level Vampire Survivor. Survivors. I liked Vampire Survivors though too.
Oh, cool. This is a lot more like kind of abstract, like Geometry Wars kind of.
It's great. It's my
aesthetic.
favorite. I guess that this new genre that I think Vampire Survivors kind of started. What would you call it? Like an arena auto battler kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I think SNKRX does it best.
Okay. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's like
the
$2.
other game I
Yeah.
just started is Dave the Diver. Also,
Me too.
one a lot of people have been talking about.
I just started that
you?
as well.
It's fun. I'm amazed at how much there is. Right, you kind of start and you're like, okay, I see the loop. You know, I go and I dive. I get fish. I make sushi, and then it's like, oh, but here's another mechanic. Oh, and here's another mechanic, and here's another mechanic.
I haven't gotten that far.
You're going to hire staff and you're going to advertise and you're going to like enhance your recipes. And there's like an archaeologist and an ancient civilization. And like, you know, it's just like, they just layer stuff on. Like it's so much bigger than it initially appears in a pretty cool way.
That's the next one I plan on getting way into. Maybe we can have a little combo indie game corner next time. You and me.
Well, with the pace I play games, it'll be like, you know, I've gotten a couple more days into Dave the Diver.
Yeah, that'll be me too. That'll be me too.
But that's it for me.
Cool. How about you, Evan?
Yeah, I've been just playing one game, and I haven't had too much time for it. Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah.
Just another Final Fantasy game that's crossing.
It seems like
path.
a pretty epic one.
Yeah, no, it's I meant like that's me.
Yeah,
Final
right.
Fantasy guy. No, it is fun. It's an enjoyable game. I'm pretty invested in a lot of aspects of it, and a lot of the things that initially turned me off aren't bothering me as much as I thought it would. Like when it was first announced, when they were first showing gameplay of it, it was immediately apparent to me that you're just a solo hero with allies that are at best like NPCs that just do random bring very little to the battle other than just to like occasionally blast the bad guy with a huge spell that kind of like distracts you. But that doesn't really bother me as much. What I guess I thought I was gonna be bugged by, because in my experience I really like having a multifaceted party and like catering each character's into a unique direction. Because like one of the foundational things of all these Final Fantasy games is you get to choose your character's sort of class, kind of like D&D, and you don't really get to do that with this one, but it's fine. And I'm trying to figure out, I don't know how far I am into it, but I have enjoyed the broad storytelling aspect of it because it spans the main character's multiple stages of his life. So you initially play as him as a young man, or maybe a teen, I can't remember. And then something happens and it's like time jump and you're like 10 years, 13 years older. And then there's another time jump. And so it's cool because usually when you play one of these games, you're just like you're just a cool, attractive, androgynous male.
Yeah.
who's like 18, but in this one he's getting older, and which is neat. He's still kind of like a reluctant, sullen kind of hero, the trope of that afflicts Cloud from Seven and other characters from other games, which gets a little tiresome. But it's not as bad because he undertakes a lot of growth. And I was trying to explain to Navarro last week, there's this funny moment. The game kind of introduces mechanics through storytelling, and one of the core mechanics of like Final Fantasy games is the limit break, and you unlock it through like this narrative moment where you have to face some hard truths for the character, and in that moment you're in combat fighting this big creature, and it says press R3 and L3 to face the truth. And then, like, you do it, and like you all of a sudden, like, your character screams and you get new abilities and you start fighting even harder or whatever. But I thought it was really funny. Other people reading on forums, other people was like, that moment was so badass and cool, and I thought it kind of took me out of it, but I thought it was really funny too. So
is it the
Press
wording
X
of
to
that?
pay respects kind of
yeah
moment.
yeah kind of felt like that. So
face the truth.
so yeah, I don't know when I'm going to finish it, because it's been going so slow, but I'm looking forward to wrapping it up. I'm trying not to have the ending spoiled. I don't know if it's a big ending or not, but so other than that, I haven't really been doing a whole lot of gaming, because my life feels so structured at the moment with like childcare and work and trying to go to the gym and watering plants during a bad drought, and then feeling bad every time I see like these withered tomato leaves out the window. But it also, like, I feel like I thrive better in a structured environment. Like I don't have time to just disappoint myself by squandering my time, I guess. So so things are going good other than that. So
Awesome.
Yeah. I think generally finding that you have no time for gaming can be a good sign that life is okay. For me anyway. All right, cool. Andrew Navarro, let's finish her off with you.
Let's do it. I have not been playing much of anything, but Baldur's Gate 3 comes out next week. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't have time for that right now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have time either, but that's the only thing I'm excited about.
I am very excited.
So I'll play that when it comes
I'll probably
out.
play that
so
too.
yeah, hopefully I'll probably have something to report then. So I've played it at least over the weekend for our next podcast. But in other Dungeons and Dragons news, I finally watched Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves.
Oh yeah,
that's a new movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
With Chris Pine.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch that?
I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, Sam and I streamed it a little bit ago.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty decent. Like it tries to walk a really fine line between like high fantasy drama and self-awareness of the fact that it's Dungeons and Dragons.
Like the Marvel style?
Movie
style?
It's like there are times when it feels like the movie is just people sitting around the table playing a role-playing game.
Yeah.
And I think in those moments, it's kind of when it's at its best.
Yeah, I was trying to strike that tone of irreverence that you get from a group playing D&D, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then like it's like this serious setting, and then you kind of have these very silly plans.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that tie it into like the world? Like, are there like humans playing these characters?
No.
Else? Oh, okay.
No. Yeah, that would have been. I'm sure that was an idea that was probably scrapped pretty early on. In the,
I thought that maybe
process.
there's going to be a post-credit scene where everyone's like, "Wow, good session, guys," and they're at like a table.
that
didn't happen.
Great.
So,
that would have been really good. Yeah, that would have been awesome. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. There are lots of stuff in there for Dungeons and Dragons veterans. And they even had the characters from the old cartoon in there.
Yeah.
Kind of a throwaway capacity. It was pretty fun, all in all. You got to see some of your favorite classes doing their class things. Michelle Rodriguez as the barbarian was pretty good.
Yeah,
I will
it's a
say,
good casting.
I don't think Chris Pine was enough of a bard for me. He wasn't singing a lot during battles and empowering his allies. He was just kind of goofing off.
Yeah, well, he was more of a distraction than anything else. It's like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I thought it was pretty fun. But the to watch it, I got a 1 week free trial of Paramount Plus.
Oh,
So
yeah, one of the
Watch all the Star Trek.
the lower tier streaming services.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paramount Plus fans.
well, all Star Trek is on there.
Yeah, that's the only way to watch TNG now.
Yeah.
Listen, I love Star Trek, but I stand by my assessment.
But also on there are the first 2 seasons of Twin Peaks.
Oh.
So I watched / half watched, had it on while I was doing other things, the first 16 episodes of Twin Peaks.
Nice.
Which I've seen a couple times before, but that was really fun to watch that again. That is a very interesting show.
Yeah.
It'll be wild if you transition right into The Return after you finish those 2 seasons.
Yeah, it's kind of what I want to do. So the a podcast that I listen to, the Nextlander Watchcast, which I think I've mentioned before, they're currently watching the first season of Twin Peaks, which has kind of got me thinking like, oh man, I should go back and watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really cool show. It's very creative and still never quite been anything like it, I don't think. I don't know, have you all seen it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's been a long time since I watched it.
Yeah, I forgot how intense some of the scenes in there are.
Yeah.
Like for like a primetime show.
Yeah.
Man.
With Ray Wise, his scenes.
Yeah. Ray Wise is, oh my God, he's so good.
I know.
Kyle MacLachlan is amazing in it also.
Oh yeah.
What channel did it come out on?
NBC. I think NBC.
Originally?
ABC, I think.
ABC.
Really, that show was
was
primetime ABC, huh?
I think so, yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. It was opposite Cheers at first.
Yeah, ABC confirmed. Man, just the music. Just thinking
Fire
about
Walk
that
with Me was
music.
intense too.
Yeah. I only saw Fire Walk with Me once. I'd never need to see it again. It's pretty
Yeah,
much
I
what
know.
I feel about all David Lynch films. Like, watch them once, you're good.
So
You're
heavy
good.
for me.
Yeah.
I can't watch those more than once at all because it just puts me in a mood.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I just finished up like the conclusion of watched it through the conclusion of the Laura Palmer murder mystery. And the last few episodes I just I stayed up late because I was like, I think this is the episode when it ends, and then there was like 2 more after, so it's just,
And then it continues on for like double that for that season.
yeah, it goes, it wraps up in episode 8 of season 2. So I think season 2 has like 22 episodes. So it has a lot of like weird filler, not really great stuff after that. But then the last 2 episodes are pretty awesome.
Yeah. I'm gonna
I read a
rewatch
thing that said that like he had originally not wanted to reveal the murderer in that early, and he wanted to save it for later, but the network actually wanted him to reveal it early, and then ratings tanked after it's revealed.
Yep.
Of course.
But then we got the awesome middle finger to the network that is the last 2 episodes of that season, which are pretty amazing that those were on network TV. So probably watch those 2, and then I think I'm going to finally check out The Return, which I've heard so many good things about.
Oh, you've never watched it?
I have never watched it.
Oh, cool.
I want to rewatch it, and we watched it like last year, so
it's good that you're watching them ahead of time, because there was a lot that I was like, I had a friend who's like an encyclopedia for the show sitting next to me, and I had
nice.
I was like, what is happening? Who is this? So there's a lot of that. So you might be well equipped now.
Yeah. That's what I've been doing in my spare time.
Nice. Well, great show, you guys. It's nice talking to you. And is there anything else you wanna get in here before we go?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Send us those great questions. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.